All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to IGTV. On the air with us right now, we've got Mark Capers, and Mark is going to be delivering the InfraGard Insights on securing virtual machines. Should be an interesting talk. Mark, take it away.
Thanks, Joe. Good morning. This morning I'll talk quickly about securing virtual machines. I'm going to walk through basically the findings of the NIST draft report that they did on securing virtualization technologies. They have an excellent and lengthy paper, what I'll include in the links, along with some other good links from VMware and SANS. So quickly, boiling down the NIST general recommendations into about 4 points. First, like most infrastructures you set up, you're going to want to secure all the elements of the virtualization solution and maintain the security of that solution. You're going to need to focus on restricting and protecting administrator and other privileged access to and within the virtualization solution. This is particularly important with virtualized solutions because the management system for that can override everything within that system. So you really are, like any other administrator or privileged account, you've got a lot of access to do a lot of things, and it's a useful tool to use to monitor the different environments that you're going to set up in your virtualized environment. You also need to ensure that the hypervisor and the host operating system, if one's present, is well hardened, and you need to pay attention to that security. And as well, carefully plan for the security before installing, configuring, and deploying. You know, again, when you drive the security back to your design, it reduces your cost of ownership and it reduces the amount of things that you need to fix later. So moving down through this, when we talk about securing the elements, you need to make sure that you secure the hypervisor and the host OS. You need to make sure that your guest or virtual machine instances are secure. You know, you need to batten down where those images are stored and the change control processes around creating and operating those machine instances, especially if you're delivering this to your clients or your user communities. If you have an application, make sure that your applications follow the same security that you would on a real machine. Storage, especially, again, going back to the VM images as well, any storage associated with these virtualized environments needs to be secure in the same manner and using equivalent controls that you would use for any other disk storage or anything holding critical data according to its information criticality. So you should be using the same security practices and the same sorts of approaches. Again, it's policy driven. You want to take your business requirements, make a security policy, and follow that into your technical controls and processes for patch management, change control, and creating and maintaining secure baseline configurations. Again, using firewalls, IDS, anti-malware in these environments and between these environments is very critical. Most of the big vendors now do have virtual appliances that work in VMware and other tools to allow you the same sorts of antivirus agents, personal firewall agents, and IDS that you see on a regular computer server. So by all means, work with your vendors and make sure you use those. The policies that you use for your virtual environment should be the same as your regular security policies. Policies and controls should be the same or equivalent, regardless of whether your solution is working on a real machine or a virtual machine. And again, that moves down into asset management. You should have a good asset management system for all of your virtual environments. If you don't know what virtual machines you have running in your environment and you allow rogue virtual machines to run in your environment, you are exposing yourself to a much greater risk, especially if that machine can compromise other machines within the system that you're deploying. So include virtual machine discovery techniques in your network scanning. Secure admin and privileged access. The security of the entire solution relies on the security of the hypervisor and the administration access to that. So, you know, the hypervisor allows the operator to start the virtual machines and guest OSs, create new images, and perform other, you know, privileged actions that, if compromised, can compromise the entire system and not just the data in one machine, but all of them. So remember separation of duties when developing the processes around the admin of these solutions. If you have a good separation of duties practice now in the operation of your regular IT space, follow that process model into your virtualized solution. Make sure you also secure the management interfaces. Again, secure management interfaces are tends to be the shortcut keys across the moat into the kingdom. So make sure you secure those. And if you're using remote administration, try to use encryption where possible, either VPN, SSL, or something else. Again, your privileged access is very important to protect. Again, getting into the hypervisor and host OS hardening a little bit, it's considered best practice that data of different sensitivity, so if you have a group of data elements that have a certain CIA rating, right now NIST and other bodies consider it best practice to keep those on separate physical hypervisors. So if you're building a virtualized solution, try to group like information elements across that solution. This is not always feasible, but be aware that, if a compromise happens, you're dealing with stuff at the same information security level. So hypervisor and host OS should also have the same hardening as any critical system. So, as much time as you spend on your routers and the servers that do critical information, make sure you spend as much time hardening up that hypervisor. So disable unused services and hardware. Typically, there's shared clipboard available. There's notepads. There's clocks. There's other things. All that stuff tends to take away from your performance as well. So if you don't need them running in the background, shut them down in your virtual environment. So each VM instance, try to harden those down as you build those images, and make sure that you take that practice back into the baseline OS and the hypervisor. Monitor the hypervisor for compromise or attacks. And you can configure the hypervisor to monitor the security of the OSs. Along with creating those virtual guest OSs, make sure that you limit their resources so that you don't have one instance creating a denial of service for the entire platform. And as well, lastly, and most importantly, physically secure the machine running the hypervisor. Again, physical access. If I have physical control of something, then it's secure. You can ensure its security through its physical security. So make sure that it's, you're practicing, locked room, limited access, etc. Going back into lastly, but not leastly, carefully plan the deployment, the design, configuration. And again, it goes back to understand your business requirements, understand your information security classification of all your information assets and how they act within that system and how they intend to interact in that system, both at rest and in flight. So you need to plan, consider security from the initial planning stage, and you will, minimize your operational and security costs later on the road. So understand how your controls and the intended design satisfy those requirements, and then go off and deploy. And that's securing virtualization in a nutshell, Joe.
I hear you, Mark, and we did pressure there so that you would come up with this as quick as possible, and I think everybody really out there understands and realizes that this can't all be done in 30 seconds.